I've purchased this really good bench frame. In fact, it was a bench, but it was very run down. There was a top on there, and then there was also a shelf on the bottom, but it had all rotted. So I've torn it down. I've taken the vise off. I'm going to keep the vise. I've restored that. There is a vise for this one, a brand new one that I bought. So what I'm actually going to do is I've gone and purchased some 12mm marine ply. So that's going to be fixed to the top. Some pre-drilled holes. Look, the likelihood of me getting to those is not good, and I don't want to make mistakes. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go around and just put a pencil mark where all these holes are. And that way, when I go to drill down this marine ply, I'll know to stay away from those markings, and I'll just simply drill new ones. So anyway, let's get cracking on it and we'll see how it turns out. All right, so I've gone around and I've marked where all the holes are. I've got myself 20 of these 35mm self tappers with the countersunk top because we want it to sit flush. I'm going to put the wood on. I'm going to go around now and mark out. I've got 20 of them, 4 5s are 20. I don't need 5 aside. So I'm going to have a few left over, but I want as much symmetry as I can possibly get. Now the wood that I've got is, there's a little bit of natural curve to it. So what we're going to do obviously is put that curve on the top so it fixes down and that we don't end up with a bit of a banana shape at the end, because nothing is ever perfectly true. Anyway, so I'm just going to get on with it. I'll be back and forth and we'll see how we go. The Essential Craftsman on YouTube talks about a cornerstone. He talks about when you do foundations, there's always a cornerstone. So that's something that you put in place that's true, and then you work from there. So I'm going to apply the same principle, is that I'm going to locate this here and then I'm going to screw into this corner, and then I can adjust and get everything right before I put my next one in. The reason that this cut is so good is that I didn't do it. Bunnings offer free cut. So this is 12mm. It was 2400 by whatever, so I just got them to cut it down. My circular saw, even if I'd run a beam for it to run, it still would have just floured it up because this is marine ply, it's layered. So get them to do it while you're there. They do it for free, and then you'll get a much better cut, hopefully, if they do it right. So I've gone into the metal just a little bit because when I put the screw in, I don't want the screw to be hunting around. I want the screw to sort of locate and drop straight in. So that means I have to change my drill bit, but let's see if my theory applies. Perfect. That's exactly the outcome that I was looking for. What I do like about the pre-drilled holes and the markings that I've done, it does at least set me on the equidistant screw holes. So, you know, there's not a lot of work for me to do there. I can just pretty much do this by eye now. Nobody's ever going to really see the back of this. They're always going to see what's called the presentation side. So I'm going to go to the other end here and I'll do my holes there. This should be the last time that I actually change my drill bit. because I'll just go around and pre-drill now after this one. Excellent, nice and flush. I don't know whether to countersink it a little bit further and then maybe just patch with the timber gapping stuff, or just to leave it the way it is. I think I might just leave it. It actually looks really good, because I'm actually impressed with the drill. I want to see it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually a fair bit. That's all right. So much for line of sight. I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I had the 2 screws at either end. So I've run myself some pink string line down the edge here, and then I'll go through now and pre-drill the holes. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I've gone through and pre-drilled, pretty much equidistant along here, remembering that my string has started in the center of this one, but when I wrap it around this end, it's always going to be just slightly off. So there's a little bit of drift in this string line. So it just meant that I just stayed this side of it a bit as I worked up toward the end here. So now I'll go through and put the screws in, and we should be in business. We might lose a little bit of light here. It's getting late into the evening. We are Brisbane, just on the coming into the last month as of today, last month of winter. And yeah, the sun goes down pretty early, but it comes up early as well. I think it can come up as early as like 4:45 at this time of year. And every now and then you get a dodgy Phillips head that actually won't let you sink into it. It's had a little bit of metal spill. That one seats nicely. Nice and slow. Winter, hence the beanie. That's why I've got a beanie on at the moment. So I'm just loving that. It's just nice and flush. And you know, I've got this on speed 1 because there's no hurry and I want to do a good job. I don't want these divots. Now, if my older brother, my eldest brother, was watching that, who is not a tradesman, he is a craftsman, and he does things to a really high quality, and what he would have seen was that screw was not biting into the metal and it was starting to lift the wood, and I ran into the danger because this one was fixed down of it actually breaking the wood because it was dragging the wood up. So I was lucky that that didn't happen. And speaking of the wood, I learned from my mistake. Look, this is a workbench. It's not a kitchen table. But probably what I could have done was maybe just inspected the surface a little bit better. There's a few knots in here, but that's okay. It's a bit of character. And if I decide to clear coat this, it'll actually look quite nice. Yeah, the Essential Craftsman on YouTube, he talks about the difference, I think, of a tradesman and a craftsman. My oldest brother is actually a tech school teacher by qualification. But always does things to a very high standard, and that's why I seek his opinion a lot on this sort of stuff. So he is informally Yabby's garage because he does a lot of motoring stuff and that sort of stuff over in Port Hughes, South Australia, which is like a really good tourist fishing town and has a big mining history. So that's where he's sort of located, and he renovates cars and does all sorts of stuff. If you ever have a project, that's a really good garage to walk into. and it'll always be done well. I'm going to work my way around now and just do the remainder of these screws. All right, so I've put in my screw here in this corner, and this corner they're the same from the edge. So again, just run my string line. Now we've got a little bit of a lip here on this one, so I'm going to just go opposite that screw, go opposite that screw, yep, because that doesn't. Alright, so that should look good. I like symmetry. I know it doesn't have to be perfect, but symmetry's good. I ended up drilling through that one, but the drill bit is much less than the actual screw, so it should be okay. So what some of you guys might have probably picked up on was that I did a screw at each end, and earlier I mentioned about a bow in the wood. This is new, so I don't really have a problem with that, and there's certainly enough tolerance. But if this was an old piece of wood and had a lot of character and there was actually a bit of a bow in it, which was going to end up being flattened out, then you would progressively run your screws. You wouldn't fix at each end because you need the board to flatten out. Otherwise it's just gonna be under tension and all of that sort of stuff. But we don't have a problem with that on this occasion. Okay, so that's my last screw. I've got screws all around, but I've only decided to put one into each end, which should be sufficient. So what you may have seen before was that there's a nice steel reinforced plate under this section here. So shortly I'm going to move it out, and then from underneath I'll be able to locate the pre-drilled holes, and I'm going to drill upward just very carefully. I don't want to explode the wood, so that means a smaller drill bit. And then what I'll do from the top is open that hole up with a larger drill bit at a very low speed. Okay, so now we're going to mount the vise. So there's some pre-drilled holes through the metal that's sitting underneath this. That's my template, so I'm just going to come up through that like I said before. And always pays to not have your hand on the other side. There's no need because this thing is actually screwed down, but you probably saw my hand there, but it was well clear. I was making a very good point to do that. So now what I'm going to do is just open these holes out a little bit according to the bolts that I have, and then we'll go from there. When I marked out these holes, I had to make a decision, and that was that, see this rounded part here of the vise at the very front, it's always tempting to put that flush up against the edge, and you can certainly do that if you want to, but if you are going to be working with large objects on your vise, go below your bench line, then it's a really good idea to make sure that this rear jaw is offset by about 2 to 5 mil. So if you were fixing a broom head, you don't want to take the broomstick thing out, you can just come along, shove the broom in here upside down, and then work on the broom head, screw your screw in and fix it. It's just an example off the top of my head. Or if you've got larger motor parts and stuff like that. So give thought to that when you're mounting your vise. Don't go putting your screw holes in and then going, oh, bugger, you know, I really should have offset it a little bit. So that's what I've done on this occasion. Okay, so that's my last bolt gone in. I really love these adapters. They go on to the end of your Makita. They go straight into your socket, and they just really speed things. This has got my vise on now. This is a swivel vise, as I say, so I can just let these off and then turn the vise, and now she is square. I did actually alarm myself after I tightened up all the bolts. I looked at it and went, it's not square, but then I realised that it's a swivel vise. So we're starting to think, where did I possibly go wrong? And it's easy enough to do. We will do it. So already it's serving as a workbench. I've got my tools on here that I've been using to create it. I'm very happy with the way that it's come out. I've got a brand new vise, brand new top. The frame is pretty much brand new. The only thing to make a decision about now is whether I actually take this bottom frame out or whether I leave that. All right, so we're finished. This was an 800 by 1660 worktop is the area. And the bench is probably just over 1 metre or so high. So it's a good working level. New bench top, brand new vise, fully mounted onto a really, really good frame, ready to go. So remembering that my projects aren't expert projects, they're just guides for people who just want to give things a go. So this was a really good project to do. I really enjoyed doing it. It's probably taken me about an hour and a bit to do, but of course I was YouTubing at the same time, and I've had my trusty inspector there in the background that's been keeping me company. Millie, come here, sweetheart. Come here. Come on. Good girl. Come on. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and until the next project, I'll see you soon.